thank you. Well, thank you all for being here today. I thought it would be appropriate to mark the 100th day of our administration with a press conference and with a pocket square. It's first time I've ever worn a pocket square, I think. You know, it's been a busy time. Since January the 11th, we've had a presidential visit, a vice presidential visit, 2 instances of severe flooding across the state. We've had devastating tornadoes, a special legislative session, and now we're in a regular legislative session. So we've been busy, no shortage of things to do. And if all of that isn't enough, I'm proud to officially announce to all of you, in case you haven't heard, that the chicken coop is in at the governor's mansion, and we have 16 hens, and hopefully they will be laying some eggs shortly. Despite all the challenges, though, seriously, we have been busy. The state faces a lot of challenges presently. I remain extremely optimistic about our state and our future. I'm excited about what's in store. But we have a lot of work to do. I recognize that. The folks here in the legislature recognize that, and certainly business and industry, the faith-based community, local government officials, folks all across Louisiana understand the challenges that we face. I want you to know that I'm encouraged. I am not discouraged at all about this administration or what's happening in the state of Louisiana, and I am more committed than ever to working on behalf of the people to fix our problems. If the last election told us anything, it's that the people of our state demand more from the governor's office. And as I've said, right now is about making the harder right choices rather than the easier wrong ones. And we're going to move forward over the next 100 days and clearly beyond that with that same mentality. On another note, to all of you, the members of the media, I know that the first 100 days of this administration has been a little taxing on you all too, and you've been busier than normal. And while certainly you and I won't always agree on the story's outcome or the headlines, I want to thank you for your hard work and commitment to the people of Louisiana to provide the most accurate information, or at least for the most part. That's what you try to do. And I hope that I and my administration have given you the information that you need and the accessibility that you desire in order to do your job and keep the people informed. And we're going to continue to do that in the future. And I look forward to working with you, all of you, and having many more press availabilities. So with that, it is time for questions. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Well, and you talked about the gas tax, and I don't know that everyone knows this. I was yesterday. I was at I think it was a BRAC-sponsored economic development luncheon, and I addressed this publicly. The fact of the matter is, any revenue derived from a gas tax constitutionally goes into the Transportation Trust Fund and is not available to fund TOPS, higher education, K through 12 education, health care, other of our most acute and pressing needs. And so I am not inclined at the present time to pursue a gas tax because there is a limited appetite for new revenue, and we need to get it where we can do the most good with it and address our current challenges. Having said that, I do believe that that at some point we are going to have to look at increasing the excise tax on gas in order to fund more road and bridge transportation infrastructure projects. Now, with respect to the revenue options that will be on the table in the second special session, I am not going to get ahead of the task force that was created pursuant to House Concurrent Resolution 11 coming out of the first special session. They are meeting weekly. As you know, their first report was due on September the 1st in order to inform our movement forward primarily looking at the fiscal session for next year in 2017. I've asked them to come up with a plan for additional revenue this year so that it would be a down payment on comprehensive tax reform and would be consistent with the overall approach that they are going to be advocating that the state move in. So I've asked them to do that. I'm not going to today try to get in front of them. I will tell you that I think if you just pull out the most recent Jim Richardson report from a little over a year ago, you're going to see the general approach, and it would be some of those items. And by the way, I'll be quite frankly surprised if there are options to consider that look a whole lot different than those that were before the legislature in the first special session. Yes, sir.
What signs are you seeing that give you optimism that the House is actually going to cut the spending that you're asking them to cut, or raise the taxes that you're asking them to raise?
Well, first of all, I'm optimistic based on conversations that I'm having with individual members and most of the leadership in the House as well. I have been through the process of working with the numbers, taking only the revenue that has been recognized by the REC and trying to fashion a budget that delivers on funding the critical priorities of the state. I know where we are. I know what $750 million short looks like. And I think at the end of the day, when the legislature goes through that process, they're going to understand that we have huge holes in our budget that will be very hard to get by with over the course of the next fiscal year. And that will have a lot to do with their willingness to open their minds and be a little more responsive in a second special session. I just look for that to happen, and we will see, obviously, Tyler. Yes, ma'am.
So, if you don't expect I'm a little confused by what you were saying before. You say you want to wait for the task force, but you expect the task force to largely recommend what has been put forward and studied before. So why are we waiting for the task force? I mean, what do you think the task force is going to tell us that has not already been
Well,
told or studied about the budget?
Well, we've had a special session, and some revenue measures were enacted, and so that changes the equation going forward as to about what we need to do next for additional revenue. I don't believe any of the proposals that we're likely to see come out of the task force will be different than those that they put before the legislature for its consideration before. But there are more proposals than we will take up in a second special session, and I'm looking for them to narrow down the approach that we should go in that second special session. So it would obviously it wouldn't be everything, for example, that was in Dr. Richardson's report, but they would pick out some.
So like narrowing the options?
Oh, sure, as to what would be the best way to approach that in a second special session. Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak to the cuts that are due for parochial schools, specifically the voucher program and the school lunches?
Well, I don't have those precise figures with me right now. I can tell you that with respect to the voucher program, I think every year since its inception, it's been over-appropriated. We are not going to grow the size of that program this year. And so there will have to be some choices made. I suspect they're going to get made in the Department of Education as to whether they try to fund the same number of voucher students at the same amount per voucher, or whether they try to have growth in terms of the number of students who get a voucher but at a reduced amount. And I don't know what the approach is going to be, but I can tell you it will be a standstill approach there. And then with respect to other cuts, you have a specific question with that?
Well, I guess specifically, do you see this as a matter of financial expediency, the cuts to parochial schools, or is it a way to distinguish yourself from the previous cut?
No, every cut we have proposed is a function of the record deficit that we inherited. You know, I did not intend to become governor and spend 100 days advocating for painful cuts or for raising revenue. That's not what I want to do, but it's what has to be done in the reality of the situation that we have. So, no, I'm not trying to distinguish myself from my predecessor at all, but $750 million shortfall is a huge number in a state like Louisiana. It's very, very difficult to protect anything from cuts with numbers that big, which is why I believe at the end of the day, there's going to be more support for additional revenue. Yes, sir.
Governor, what do you consider your most impactful accomplishment today in 100 days?
Well, first of all, I think there have been a number of them, but clearly the most important thing that we've done, I did on January the 12th, standing right here, and that's when I signed the executive order expanding the Medicaid program. We will have working poor people in Louisiana that will start signing up on June the 1st. The Medicaid expansion itself will be in place on July the 1st, the first day of the next fiscal year, and we anticipate a savings of $184 million emanating from the decision to expand the Medicaid program. And put another way, that $750 million shortfall would actually be $184 million worse without the Medicaid expansion. So it's the right thing to do to provide health care coverage to the working poor in Louisiana who, through no fault of their own, are caught in a gap presently. And all we had to do was avail ourselves of our own federal tax dollars rather than sending them to 30 other states so that their working poor got health care coverage and those reimbursement dollars flowed to their hospitals and other providers. We're simply going to accept those tax dollars back to Louisiana and provide health care here at a tremendous savings. So it's obviously the right thing to do, not just in the short term, but we know that DSH reductions are coming in the future, and that's primarily how we fund our safety net hospitals. And so we know that it's about cost avoidance in the future as well as savings today. Yes, ma'am.
Are you worried about how the legislature might receive some of the other things in your package, specifically conservative House committees regarding the minimum wage and education?
Well, I'm not worried about them. I know that there's a difference of opinion between myself and some members of the legislature. And having been a member of the legislature for 8 years, I understand the process. I know how it works. I am committed to raising the minimum wage. It's been the same since 2009. $7.25 is not a meaningful living wage in 2016. I believe it's the right thing to do. I know that a considerable majority of the people of Louisiana agree with that as well. So I would hope that not just the House, but the Senate also continues to work with us to move forward so we can do what they've already done in Arkansas. And in fact, on January the 1st of next year, Arkansas will be at $8.50 an hour when I think we ought to be at $8 an hour, and then do the additional 50 cents a year later. I just think it's the right thing to do. It's modest but meaningful. And you know, equal pay, I think, is also critically important. And these aren't things that I just came up with after being elected governor. I have supported these initiatives throughout my time as a legislator, and I ran on them. They were part of the platform. That's how I answered the questions. That's how I spoke in terms of what I wanted to do as governor. And I'm standing before you precisely because I won. So we're going to pursue those things. Yes, ma'am.
There are a couple bills on the House floor today I was hoping to get your reaction to. One is the ASTA Protection Act.
Mhm.
You supported only the way it's drafted, and then the other is the motorcycle helmet
Yeah.
requirement.
Yeah, first, I don't support repealing the motorcycle helmet law. I know that will cause a lot more folks who are involved in accidents while riding motorcycles to be more seriously injured or killed, and so I don't support that.
Would you veto it if it gets you?
There's no other way at that point to express my lack of support. And then with respect to the Pasture Protection Act, I will tell you, I don't conflate that bill with Representative Johnson's bill from last year. The two are totally different, and I don't see anything in the Pasture Protection bill that causes me concern, except that it's unnecessary. I don't believe we have pastors today who are under any threat of anything adverse happening to them if they don't officiate a gay wedding, for example, if that would violate an article of faith that they have. I think the First Amendment to the Constitution makes that clear, and the Preservation of Religious Freedom Act in 2010 here in Louisiana that I voted for as a legislator, and that I think may have passed unanimously through the House and the Senate, and affords the strongest constitutional protections afforded by law to this issue. So I think it's unnecessary. I don't think it accomplishes anything, but there's nothing in it that really causes me concern beyond the fact that it's unnecessary. Yes, sir.
The House Bill 201, Senate bill, is considering decreasing funding or eliminating funding with interpreter services, such as the gentleman standing before you. Without interpreters, I'm very concerned about that issue, because without interpreters, I wouldn't be able to understand you today. So we would really want to keep that funding there.
This is not something that is on my radar screen, but obviously having interpreters available so that you can communicate with me and I can communicate with you is important to me. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here today. So we will take a look at that, and I will weigh in on that if, in fact, the bill would seek to do away with the types of services that we're using today. Yes, sir. Greg?
Thank you.
Overall, what would you say to your critics out there that would, mainly from the conservative side, that say, okay, we have a Democrat in office now, who's just doing exactly what we thought he was going to do for his first 100 days. Is it a case of the problems were just so insurmountable for you?
No. Well, first of all, I hope they thought I would tell the truth, and I have. I hope they thought I would be at work, and I have. I hope they thought I would try to fix the problems, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. You know, quite often it's the person who cleans up the mess that gets blamed for creating it, but the people of Louisiana know better than that. Greg, I inherited the largest budget deficit in the history of our state, a budget deficit that threatens the ability to fund institutions across the state of Louisiana that afford people the opportunity for a better life here, whether it's higher ed, K through 12, health care, whatever we do, it's threatened by the dishonest, irresponsible budgeting practices over the last 8 years. We're fixing that. That's uncomfortable for some people, I understand that. But we're going to work, we're going to get the job done.
Last question.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought that the law in Baton Rouge was that you couldn't have more than 3 chickens in a house.
I think it depends on the size of your lot. And if you will check, I believe we have 8 acres at the governor's mansion, and there are no limits. And in fact, I believe I could have a rooster, but out of consideration for my neighbors, I have decided not to have a rooster. But I do have 16 lovely hens, and you're welcome to come by and take a look at them anytime. I have 2 dogs.
Paid for the chicken coop.
Will they be served in the new farm to school?
Do what?
Will they be served in the new farm to school program?
Well, I will tell you that for all of the students who come by the mansion, and there are many, to take a tour, we purposely put it by the garden so that they can see the produce that we're growing and actually take a look at the chickens as well. But Tyler, I paid for it out of my pocket, and I'm a little surprised you would ask the question, but that's okay. That's it?